Stephen A. Smith, just said the words the WNBA didn't want Music Him to say, but he said them anyway. He came out swinging for Sophie Cunningham and against BRITTNey Griner, and he didn't hold back on either one. This happened right after shocking new details about Griner started music spreading. The kind of details that change how you look at every single game she's played in the WNBA, the championships and gold medals she has won, and her repeated attacks against the league's biggest star, Caitlin Clark. Stick around because we're here to lay out what's actually being said, what Stephen A. Smith thinks about it, and why Caitlin Clark keeps getting caught in the middle of it all. Show your support for Sophie Cunningham down in the comments below.
This is not about being anti-anything. This is about being pro-girls, pro-females, pro-women, pro-ladies. That's what this is about. You can't be a male, born a male, transitioning to female, and think that you should have the right to compete with women. Not in basketball, not in football, not in boxing, not in the UFC. Hell, not even in tennis.
Before we break down how Smith destroyed Griner, let's first look at the questions fans keep asking over and over. You'd think after a few years they'd fade away like every other internet theory, but instead they keep growing, picking up new pieces of evidence every few months. And once you look at what people are actually pointing to, you start to understand why this thing has legs. Start with the prison music claim. The story going around says that when Griner was detained overseas, she was allegedly held in a men's facility, not a women's one.
WNBA crew are very fond of virtue signaling, but even when it comes to Britney's exchange for like the Merchant of Death, which is insane, by the way, but had that been just like a straight white girl, my guess is that straight white girl would probably still be rotting in a Russian prison.
And there are the videos. A clip from Griner's own social media account sat on the platform for half a year without ever getting flagged. Social media sites build algorithms to catch and remove exactly that kind of content automatically. No human review needed. So the question people keep asking is simple. Why didn't it get flagged? The theory going around is that the platform scanned the image, read it as a male chest, and moved on because that's literally what the software is built to allow. That's not some small technical glitch either, especially with the exact same video staying up without a single automated response.
How are you, Brittany? Let me see something real quick. Brick! Thank you! Get the hell out of here, yo! Yo!
Sounded like
Jab stepping, just a brick. Swing and a miss!
oh!
Yo, I ain't gonna fake it right now.
That this person is not a female. Firstly, because this was actually posted to Britney's personal Instagram.
Now bring in the DNA test. There's a claim floating around online about a leaked DNA test, one that allegedly shows Griner's genetic makeup as male. It's out there. It's been shared thousands of times, and it has become part of the same conversation as the prison claim and the Instagram video.
When it comes to Instagram, they use a combination of like AI detection and plus manual surveyors, but specifically the AI detection to make sure that no explicit content ends up on the platform. So clearly whatever AI detection system was used when Britney posted this and it stayed up for 106 weeks was not like, oh, this is a bare female chest, we have to take this down. It obviously assumed that Britney was male.
Here's what's strange though. Through all of this, Griner's camp has said nothing. No statement, no denial, no lawsuit, nothing on record, pushing back against any of it. And the WNBA, an organization that moves fast when it wants to, like when they investigated Fever fans over unverified claims about Angel Reeve, has stayed completely silent on Griner. No clarification, no music statement, not even a "these rumors are false." That silence is deafening when you compare it to how quickly the league jumps on other controversies involving its players. So, you've got the prison story, the shirtless video, and the DNA rumor all stacking up at the same time. And that pile of unanswered questions is exactly what was sitting in the background when Sophie Cunningham opened her mouth. Her comments didn't come out of nowhere. They landed right in the middle of a conversation that had already been building online for months. That's why what could have been one more hot take from one more athlete instead turned into a national story overnight, with people connecting her words directly to everything swirling around Griner.
Stop this! We gotta stop acting like somebody that's speaking up on behalf of girls, like a Sophie Cunningham, like a Riley Gaines, are scourges of the earth. You are Cheryl Reeve, the head coach of the Minnesota Lynx. That is an irresponsible thing to do. You are a coach for a female basketball team. Do you not think that the females are being screwed over if they have to compete against a individual born as a male?
Or not, the WNBA's refusal to say anything at all is what keeps this fire burning. And while all of this was happening online, something even more real was happening on the court. Something Fever fans didn't have to read about because they watched it happen live right in front of them. 14 minutes. That's how long Stephen A. Smith went on his own show. And he didn't spend 1 second of it dancing around anything. He said flat out what a lot of people in and around the WNBA have been thinking for a while, but wouldn't say on camera. And the person he went after first wasn't even Griner directly. It was Minnesota Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve for wearing a Trans Kids Belong shirt during a nationally broadcast game against the Indiana Fever.
That a college player for the men's at a college program anywhere in the country, or an NBA player should transition to being a woman and be allowed to compete in the WNBA?
Smith called it irresponsible. His argument was simple. Reeve coaches a women's basketball team, so her job in his eyes is to protect biological women in that sport, not make a political statement live on national television while the league's biggest draw is on the court. He pointed right at the moment and said, "That's what Sophie Cunningham is talking about." He wasn't being subtle about it. Smith accused Reeve of having no regard for the WNBA or its sponsors and called the whole thing selfish, saying she put her personal beliefs ahead of the league's business. Here's what makes Smith's take different from the usual noise. He kept saying this isn't about being anti-anybody. His exact framing was that he's pro-girls, pro-females, pro-woman, pro-ladies, and that a person born male who transitions to female shouldn't compete against women in any sport. Not basketball, not football, not boxing, not the UFC. He put it plainly. Nobody said you can't transition from male to female. The issue here is competing against the music women. That's the same argument Cunningham has been making, and Smith knew it when he said it. He framed the whole issue as an 80-20 issue, meaning the vast majority of the public agrees with him and Cunningham. And he accused the league's old guard of being completely out of touch with where American opinion actually stands on this.
You're a male and transitioning to female, you should be playing against the women. Nobody said you can't transition from male to female. The issue here is competing against the women. That's what Sophie Cunningham was talking about. That's what Riley Gaines is talking about. How are you, Coach Cheryl Reeve, and you could condone that?
What really sets Smith apart here is that he said the quiet part out loud. He claimed a lot of players in the league privately feel the same way, but are too scared to say it because speaking up gets you dragged online or blackballed by your own locker room. Smith said the WNBA has opened up Pandora's box by refusing to address any of this directly, and that the silence is what's letting biological female athletes get, in his words, screwed over. Smith wasn't just venting either. He tied Reeve's shirt directly to the league's business, saying she made this choice during a nationally televised game against the most popular team in the WNBA, the Indiana Fever, and that doing it there was going to cost the league sponsors music and fans. He kept asking how she could wear that shirt with no regard for the WNBA and its bottom line. Like the financial side of this didn't even cross her mind.
I played with BG for 6 years, and so I know her like the back of my hand. On that same vein, in that story with ESPN, you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Just can you expand your viewpoint on that? I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children. And that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe.
And so Smith isn't just taking shots at Grier's situation from a distance. He's calling for real consequences, and he's backing Cunningham's exact position word for word while putting Grier in her place. But if you think Smith went hard, wait until you hear what Cunningham actually said herself, because her version of this is even more direct. Reporters caught Sophie Cunningham right after a Fever blowout. Microphone in her face, and she didn't dodge a single question. No hesitation. No, I'd rather not talk about it. She just said what she'd been sitting on for a while. I want to protect young girls in a locker room or young girls in sport who shouldn't have to go against biological men. That's the line. Flat, direct, no yelling behind it. And that calm delivery is exactly what made it land so hard.
This is coming at it as a negative. Well, me coming out with that, there's so many people who are coming out with the positive saying, you know what, finally someone has said something. And I don't really look at either side of those, because I know whatever I say, I'm going to get hate and I'm going to get love. And if I'm going to live by the love, I'm going to die by the hate. And that's just not who I am. I beat to my own drum. And so people are always going to have something to say. You could win the championship. You could be the best at whatever it is. And there's still people who are going to hate on you. And so that's just what this world is. So I'm confident in who I am. I'm proud of who I am. I'm happy being me. And I'm going to continue to be.
She called it kind of common sense, and she meant it. Cunningham said protecting kids matters, and that's little girls who are also involved in that category, meaning this wasn't some abstract policy debate to her. It was about actual children in actual locker rooms. And because she said it so evenly music without raising her voice or pointing fingers at anyone specific, it hit differently than a rant would have. People expect outrage when a topic is this heated. Instead, they got a WNBA player talking like she was explaining something obvious. And that calm is what took over group chats and comment sections within hours. In the ESPN interview that came out the day before, Cunningham pushed back on how people were reading her position. I got a lot of negative feedback about me hating trans, and I'm like, I never once said that. She kept going. I think that I am here to extend love, but I also think with that love is truth, being honest. That's her whole framing right there. Love and honesty in the same sentence. And she wasn't backing off either one.
It comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport. I feel very strongly about that. I think that's why you have Title IX. That's why you have some of the greats in women's sports. If Title IX and women's sports weren't protected, then you wouldn't hear about any type of women in sport. And so I think in the future, it's just really important to protect.